Okay, let's create a new project in Android Studio and learn more about tab layouts. To start, run Android Studio. To create a new project, I click Start a new Android Studio project. I name my project Tab Layout. I click Next, and I set the minimum SDK to API 15, empty activity and Next, and Finish. I wait until Android Studio creates my project. Okay, our project was created. In order to use tab layouts, we have to add the design library to our project. So I go to the File menu and click Project Structure. Under Modules, I select App and then I go to the Dependencies tab. Using the plus option, Library Dependency, I select the design library and add it to my project. I wait until Android Studio compiles my project and adds the design library to the project. The Gradle operations finished successfully and the design library was added to my project. Before discussing how to add tab layouts, I'm going to add a toolbar to my project. As you know, the first thing is to go to styles.xml and change the app theme parent to no action bar so that Android's default toolbar is removed. Next, I go to the layout folder and I open the activity main layout. I go to the text section, I remove the constraint layout and instead use a relative layout. My relative layout requires a width and a height. In the preview pane, I set its width and height to match parent. Now it's time to define our toolbar inside our relative layout. I type android.support.v7.widget.toolbar. My toolbar requires a width and a height. In the preview pane, I set its width to match parent. And for its height, I type android:layout_height, and for its value, I use the action bar size attribute. Now I define an ID for it, @ID / toolbar_ID. I give it a background, and for its value, I use the color primary attribute. Finally, I type app:, I import app to my layout by pressing Alt and Return. Theme equals @style / theme overlay .appcompat.dark .action bar. And that's it for the toolbar that we created inside our relative layout. I close my layout and open the main activity class. Inside the main activity class, I define an object from the toolbar class. I name it toolbar. Inside the onCreate method, I connect my toolbar object to its corresponding view. Toolbar equals, I cast the right side to toolbar, find view by ID, r.id .toolbar_ID. Also, I type set support action bar. Inside the parentheses, I pass it my toolbar object. Let's see the result on the emulator. There we go. Our application is running on the emulator, and as you can see, we have added a customized toolbar to our app. Now I want to change the color of my toolbar. As you can see, to do this, I go to the colors.xml file. I remove the value of the color primary attribute, and then I'm going to select another color from the material colors. From the colors, I select, for example, cyan. I copy the color code for 500, and I use this color code for the color primary attribute. Also, for color primary dark, I use the color code for 700. I close colors.xml and I open the activity main layout. As you see in the preview pane, the color of our toolbar as well as our status bar has changed to cyan. Once we have set up our toolbar, it's time for us to define our tab layout. I type android.support.design.widget.tab layout. My tab layout requires a width and a height. In the preview pane, I set its width to match parent and its height to wrap content. After width and height, I define an ID for my tab layout. @ID / tab layout _ ID. Once I defined the ID, I'm going to place my tab layout below the toolbar. As you can see, currently it is placed over the toolbar. I type Android : layout _ below. As its value, I enter the ID for my toolbar. So I type @ID / toolbar _ ID. You see that the tab layout is now placed below the toolbar. Now I'm going to define a background for the tab layout. Usually tab layouts have the same background as the toolbar. This means that we should use the same background color for both the toolbar and the tab layout, and this is a standard. That being said, as my toolbar follows the color primary attribute for its background, I can use the same attribute for my tab layout's background as well. So I type $attribute / color primary. Now our tab layout requires a mode and a gravity. As a starting point, I'm going to define a fixed mode tab layout with label. So after the background attribute, I type app : tab mode. And I select fixed from the list that appears. Also, I type app : tab gravity. From the list, I select fill. The reason I select this value is that I want my tab layout items to fill in my tab layout completely. On the other hand, if I select center for this attribute, my tab layout items will be placed at the center of my tab layout. And that's it for the tab layout that we created inside our activity main layout. I already said that to switch between the tabs in a tab layout, usually view pagers are used. So here I'm going to define a view pager as well. I type android.support.v4.view.viewPager. My view pager requires a width and a height. In the preview pane, I set its width and height to match parent. I define an ID for my view pager @ID / viewpager _ ID. As you can see, currently my view pager spans the whole activity, but I want my view pager to be placed below my tab layout. So I type Android : layout _ below, and then I type the ID for my tab layout, @id / tab layout _ ID. As you can see, now the view pager is placed below the tab layout. For now, we're done with the activity main layout. So, we created a toolbar inside our activity main layout. We defined a tab layout. We defined a view pager which is placed below our tab layout. The next thing to do is to start defining items for our tab layout. That's enough for this lecture. In the next lecture, we are going to add items to our tab layout and further complete our project.